Hey, I know you don't smoke weed. I know this. But I'm gonna get you high today. Cause it's Friday.
Yes.
You ain't got no job.
Yes.
And you ain't got shit to do.
And we're back. It's your boy IB Joe, and we are Hot Takes and Half Truth Podcast, riding solo in the studio this week. Unfortunately, Mr. Just King had previous engagements, so decided to go ahead and get something out there today and go over some of the current goings-on that's happened over since we last recorded. With that said, this episode is brought to you by Trap Golf and Modern Renaissance Clothing. Dope lines. My boy Wayne Birch Jr. Is responsible for one half of the Trap Golf entity, and you can see from the shirt, and then my homeboy Regis Devonish is one part of Modern Renaissance. Two dope merch entities, man. Go ahead, reach out, look up those two online, modernrenaissance.com, trapgolf.com, and check them out, man. I mean, pretty dope stuff. With that said, man, one of the things that we didn't get a chance to announce to the world, but it's since has been announced. I want to go ahead and send a big shout out to Mr. and Mrs. Just Kinging on the announcement of their new bundle of joy that they're expecting in the next few months. I believe it'll be January. So go on over there to Twitter or Instagram, find at Just Kingin, spelled exactly the way, Just Kingin, JUSTKINGN, and wish them well, congratulate them. Should be another big year. With that said, moving on. Well, that's been going on since the last time we talked. I mean, there's been shootings. There's been shutdown of NBA playoffs due to shootings. And hell, Breonna Taylor's family just recently were awarded a settlement by the city. But still, those officers haven't been arrested or charged with her murder, which is still, I don't know, man. I just think it's sad when people can blatantly be in the wrong spot, wrong place, wrong town, and still get away with it. Something needs to be done about it, and definitely needs to have get more involvement from higher ups in the country, higher ups in that state, and get to the bottom of this. Because, first off, they went to the wrong house. Secondly, it was no knock. So it's a lot of questionable things. I won't rehash them today, but that's also something that came out over the last couple of weeks. With that said, moving on. This week's going to be a little different, man. Going to try to, obviously it's not going to be as back and forth as we used to, as far as how our show usually goes. But I have a few topics that I wanted to kind of get into it. It's going to be sort of kind of topics of the week. And then we're going to get a little bit of podcast talk and a little bit of sports. And then I'm going to end on a slight rant. But it's one that I felt like I needed to do, and I've been kind of sitting on my hands for the last couple of weeks. So bear with me. With that said, this week's Half-Truther of the Week. Truth be told, is very, this is kind of hot off the press. Basically came last night. We are recording on September 19th, 2020. Last night, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Associate Justice on the United States Supreme Court, passed away. And my half-truther of this week, in general, is the Republican Party. But more specifically in this instance, Mitch, the Tortoise McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, in which over the night and even in this morning, during the day today, Mitch has mentioned that he's going to present a judge to sit in or on Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat this fall. So the reason why I call this guy my half-truther of the week is because this is the same individual that changed the rules of engagement 4 years ago.
Yes.
4 years ago, around the same time in the calendar, another associate justice passed away, and instead of sitting that judge, like we thought, like they're trying to do now, they said, "Oh, the American people should have an opportunity to determine who gets to place this judge." This time around, they don't want to do that. They want to, keep changing the rules as they go.
Yes.
For that, they actually, the Republican Party as a whole is the half-truthers of the week. My biggest issue with this is they want to change the game, whenever it suits them. And in this instance, now they want to sit a judge literally months before an election, when 4 years ago they did the exact opposite. Let the people make the decision. So that just lets you know, what they really think of the citizen. They want to, condescendingly say that, we need to hear from the people. But when it doesn't suit their benefit, all of a sudden they don't want to hear from you. This is the main reason why we really need to get money out of politics. And unfortunately, the fact that they're going to sit this fucking judge, we're not going to be able to get it out, at least not from a legal perspective. They've already ruled that money is the same as speech, which, I don't believe that in the least bit, because then that inherently means that someone else has more speech than you, when it's technically supposed to be we all have the same level of speech, as far as being able to be heard. Now, what they want to say is, well, you can spend the same amount of money if you have it. But that's where you miss me on that from a legal perspective. It's like, nah, that's a circumstance that is out of your hands. I mean, you could have done everything right. Started the right business, was in the right field, in the right industry, and it just didn't work out for you. And I guess, that's kind of, another a look on how Republicans like to look at rich people like they are special, or they're, better than the rest because obviously they did something right. Not because, they're some virtuous type person, but because they have money. And because they have money, obviously they're good people. Obviously, God has favored them. But that doesn't necessarily mean none of that. But again, that's one of those things where, this week I'm giving my half-truther of the week to Mitch McConnell for going against his own precedent of not allowing the people to make their voices heard on who should be able to sit this judge. So it just lets you know how much he really, he can give a flying fuck about what your thoughts are as a citizenry. He just wants to have it his fucking way. So, with that said, got a few topics of the week I'm going to jump into real quick. So, since we were just talking about, the turtle himself, the tortoise, McConnell himself, we'll go ahead and send best wishes and, to the Ginsburg family. Again, as I mentioned earlier, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, first woman to sit on the Supreme Court. Definitely a progressive mind on the court. Passed away last night of cancer, pancreatic cancer. She was 87. She's been fighting it for a few years now. And because it's so new, I won't get into any other specifics on it. But with that said, rest in peace. My best wishes goes out to the Bader Ginsburg family. There's really no easy transition to this next topic. But I mentioned earlier, I kind of dropped a little hint earlier about Migos and getting more into some of what what they've been up to of lately. And over the last week, in the last, I say 4 days, Cardi B has filed for divorce. I guess, to Offset. I would tell you one thing, before we really get into it. Both these individuals have very ethnic names. Like, extremely ethnic names. They kind of read off the names of, because, you got to use your government in legal documents. But, yeah, that was interesting, to say the least. Yes. But over the last couple of days, though, they've amended the documents. She's still filing for divorce. It's irreconcilable differences, and essentially she's saying that she caught him cheating. So. And I imagine she caught him more than one time. I think that was kind of alluded to several times over the last year, a couple of years, when they had a kind of a break during their marriage. And so, I guess this is one of those things where it's just, straw that broke the camel's back, probably even had something to do. Probably even, the lawsuits of, millions of dollars being lost or taken are probably could have been a lot, the last straw, because as anyone that knows anything about divorce or the statistics behind it, everyone knows that the number one reason for divorce is finances. Now they definitely mention, or she definitely mentions infidelity as the cause, but I'd imagine also a little bit of financial issues could have something to do with it as well. But real talk, man. She's filing for full custody of Culture. The initial document, she was looking for spousal support and child support. I've heard that in the amended document, both are removed. She's not looking for spousal or child support. When it comes to child support, I don't really trip on that. That ain't, the spousal support maybe is a bit much for, another millionaire, but if you're taking care of the child, I mean, it may make sense to, but at the same time, it is what it is. It's their life. But she wants it to be amicable. I don't know if that's going to be possible if he still want to be in it, but I hope the best for both of them. It's sad to see and hear. They were one of the true power couples in hip hop over the last 2 or 3 years. Had a beautiful child. They seem to be a good family. Raising their family in front of everybody's eyes, and it just goes to show you that all that glitter isn't gold, and what you see on the camera isn't necessarily the same behind the camera. And again, we just say leave it at the fact that we wish the best for both, and hopefully they can come to not necessarily an amicable solution in the sense that they stay apart, but they figure out their relationship one way or another. And if that's them getting back together, great. If that's them staying apart, cool. Sometimes you just it's time to make a move. And in this instance, I think she kind of alluded to it in one of her posts about, sometimes, you can't, sometimes you got to do what's best for you to make you happy. And in that instance, if that's this, best things to you, sister.
Yes.
Moving on. So, now we're going to start getting into, I guess, some of the, topics that I actually wanted to discuss today. And this one is kind of near and dear to me in the sense that it's podcast talk. And this particular topic of today, it's Joe Budden and Charlemagne the God.
Yes.
It's been an interesting last few weeks as it pertains to the Joe Budden podcast. I can honestly tell you a year and a half ago, I wasn't that big of a Joe Budden podcast fan. I might have seen clips here and there, but I've never really, paid much attention to it. It really wasn't, I didn't think it was kind of like my speed. But Just King, and that was one of his main go-to podcasts. So probably about a little over a year ago, they had a live event down in Miami that we attended, and it was pretty cool. I mean, it's a little wild, and for me, it was even wild because it was a lot of fan interaction, and just so happened the motherfuckers in front of me and literally right in front of me and beside us were main motherfuckers trying to be involved, and I think one actually were able to get on stage, and long story short, they weren't that good primarily because they were totally faking and acting. It's one of those things. I think it was like a couples kind of segment, and they were supposed to be a couple, but it was like, man, you're a homosexual, man. You not with her. Why are you up there with with that woman? You're not that. But at any rate, that's neither here nor there. But that was kind of like the genesis of me being aware or more aware of Joe Budden and the guys associated with him. I guess over the last couple of years, he's been on Spotify. I only watch him or listen to him on YouTube, so I'm not familiar with Spotify with him. And I guess over the last 6 months or so, they've been in the process of trying to renew to no success. And I guess over the last 3 or 4 weeks, they realized that they were going to be leaving Spotify. And so, naturally, there were some hurt feelings. Joe was very adamant about a few things. He was very loud, animate, gave a lot of examples of what he's done and how he should be compensated and where he learned this information from and how he's been wronged before. And so he's just learning from those incidents. But more importantly, I think in the last week and a half, Charlemagne, I literally was about to say Charlemagne.
Yes.
Charlemagne the God on 2 of his platforms, particularly Breakfast Club and the Brilliant Indians, spoke directly on his situation. And it was, he was a bit had a few backhanded comments about, the situation. Andrew Schultz also kind of dipped his toe into it as well, in the sense that they on one of his platform, Flagrant 2, he talked about some aspects of it that he said that he heard. And I think for the purposes of this segment, I just think that it doesn't necessarily mean that both of them can't be right, and both of them also can be wrong. I think from the perspective of Joe Budden, he could be right in the sense that when he say that he's speaking from an ownership perspective, and owning majority shares of the company. And Charlemagne could be the same, can be right in saying that his approach is the better approach, and that being loud and combative isn't the most conducive when working or trying to negotiate with big companies. With that said, I mean, I have to, I'll be remiss if I say that I don't think that, I think Joe Budden kind of Joe has a few points that are valid, in the sense that if he and, Charlemagne are talking behind the scene, have a fairly decent relationship behind the scene, and then once they go into the public, he's taking pot shots, I feel it's fair for him to, make that known and take his own shots back. Because obviously those are things, particularly, I want to say on one of the last podcasts, he kind of started, bringing up instances of the calls that they had and how he spoke about people, or at least brought them up in a sense that, oh, I know them. And he was like, yeah, I do know you know them, because I know they're, I know the conversations they're having about you, that type of stuff. And in that instance, on one hand, Rory is like, don't do it. On the other hand, and I fully agree with Rory. I probably wouldn't have done it myself, about bringing up situations in South Carolina where I guess there's still like an open case out there, or situation that Charlemagne is dealing with, that he knows of. I mean, I'm not even interested enough to look it up. I have an idea of what it is, but I don't really care about that. That's none of my business. But I say that to say this. Some of the things that were brought up, like for instance, Andrew brought up he asked for $250 and was like, "How that's crazy." And Andrew likes to purport himself as a great businessman, to which I would say, I can agree that a lot of his business philosophies are sound. And and at the same time, I don't know if he just, what he said about the $250 was just him trying to make good content. But on the flip side, from a business perspective, you always, and you can, take for instance, lawsuits. You always go with a number that you don't think you're going to get, but you start there. You don't want to start from a number that you like, this is fair. You want to start from a number that you're like, if they give me this shit, I'll be beyond happy. So in that instance, that's $250. Like, that's kind of how, the negotiation process starts. Like, for instance, when you buy a house, when the number on the house, the listed number, is rarely the number that it sells for. It's rarely the number that is, I can't take less than that. It's usually if I could get that or somewhere around that. So, I would like somewhere around 4.8, so I'm going to ask for 5. That type of deal. And then if I end up at like 4.7, I'm right around where I need to be. You know what I'm saying? So with the $250, like I don't, like for instance, they, Andrew and Akash, that's no shot.
Yes.
They made it seem like that was outlandish, but from my perspective, and I would imagine most business people, that, that's just my starting point. I expect you to come back with, 50 or 45, and then you be like, oh, fuck that, 125. That's a bit high though. But at the same time, I can admit, for one podcast, $250 is high. But at the same time, I don't see why, $150. If Joe Rogan got one, and I'm your best, well, he just sets the market. I'm the next one up, $150. And then from there you negotiate. If you end up at 65, cool. But in my mind, I didn't. But I say all that to say this: I didn't see that being too outlandish. Sometimes people that are sharing this information have their own self-serving motives, so they can also be blowing up certain instances or certain numbers. So it could have been 150, which knowing that Joe Rogan got 100 to 300 for his one. I mean, if I'm the number one podcast on your platform, I don't think, if it's 100, well, then he just set the market for it when he came to the market. Now it's my turn. So I get it. I see it as a savvy business move. But at the same time, with to kind of segue a bit, what Charlemagne is doing is a different animal in the sense that he's essentially doing it without putting up money, per se. Now, he has a new podcast network, Black Network, something like that, Black Experience Network on iHeart. But what him and Joe are trying to do are two separate things. Joe's trying to own. Joe wants to own. Joe wants to be able to say, I could take my ball and go home. To a certain degree, Charlemagne will be able to do that, but if we 50-50 and we partners 50-50, there's certain things that if I decide you can't do it, you're not going to do it. Because we can't agree. But at the end of the day, I see, the difference in kind of what's going on here. So, on one hand, Charlemagne probably has, a bigger platform, access to more revenue streams. But then again, he's still sort of in the mechanism, in the matrix, so to speak. Whereas what Joe's trying to do, he's trying to own it and, basically put people on, and have them be in a similar situation as him, where they kind of own their thing, and whatever they bring to the table, they also eat, as opposed to, be given, scraps off the table, so to speak. Both can be, whatever situation you're in, both can be life-saving, life-changing. It's great to own, but if your situation is such where the revenue stream that you got coming in, you need to keep it coming in, and then, you could take the Charlemagne approach, which, iHeart's already paying him millions of dollars. Apparently what they were trying to say is he wasn't getting the number that he wanted, and in order for him to get the number that he wanted, and maybe more, he had to take on more responsibility. Sort of like Stephen A. and Mike Greenberg at ESPN. Both of those guys are like two of the biggest names at ESPN, highest paid at ESPN. I'm sure both of them make right around $10 million a year. I think they say Stephen A. is the top guy, but Greeny's right there after him. With that said, for that $10 million, they are everywhere. If there's a show and they need to, jump in, they're there. And that's sort of, and you can kind of look at that from a perspective that since I'm paying you so much, the responsibility of such, I can make more demands on you. And the same is going to be, so in that instance, that's what Charlemagne's playing. And, he's been doing it for the last 10 years. So, in his mind, it's probably keeping busy. Whereas Joe kind of wants to be able to, move when he wants to move. Do what he want to do. And make a few million. It's just two different perspectives. I think they both can be, like I said at the beginning, correct. I like what Joe is trying to do in the sense of actual ownership. And when I say actual ownership, because I think, Charlemagne owns it too. But when I say that, where they have, majority stake in the company, it's your company. At the end of the day, they can't tell you what to do. They can't make you do anything you don't want to do. Whereas Charlemagne's situation, they can. I mean, in theory, they probably say they won't. But if the proverbial shit hit the fan, they can. And yes. And that just is what it is when you are like in 50-50s. But at the same time, as the saying goes, 100% of nothing is nothing, but 50% of something is something. And in that instance, I don't hate either way. I think any and everyone would say the same about, to the extent that you prefer to be majority owner or be in a situation where you come to the table and it's yours. But that definitely takes money. You definitely have to put money up. And I don't really know the deal with Charlemagne, but that's typically how that works. That majority of the funds that go into floating the idea and starting the idea is fronted by the conglomerate, in this case, iHeart. But at the same time, again, I don't see nothing wrong with going into business with people. that, want to put money in your pocket and fund your idea. As long as, he's, like you say, he got a 50-50 deal on it. So I think both can be winning. I just don't like the pot shots that they're taking at each other, particularly Charlemagne, because it seems like Charlemagne is competing with Joe on one level, but they're not really competing in the sense that they're doing two different things. And I think Joe kind of brought that up on the latest episode that, we're really not talking the same. But, you're trying to compete like we're the same. And that's a little bit unfortunate. And, but I find it interesting. I like to see what Joe has next. Hopefully we get, we hear about it in the next quarter or so by the end of the year. I'm excited to see where Charlemagne has to go. I thought it was real interesting that the Brilliant and Idiots wasn't a part of the network. That's interesting. So I want to see where that goes. And, again, this is one of those topics that because we're kind of in it, it's interesting. But it's also interesting from a perspective of business. This is big business. This is how it happens. And I think one day we all want to be a part of it, be in that type of situation. With that said, moving on to sports, man. A lot has happened over the last last month. The Clippers blew a 3-1 lead.
Yes.
I mean, wow. I can tell you this. Last year at Essence Fest, we had our who we thought was going to be in the championship. I think I'm going to have to go back and listen to it.
Yes.
I think someone did say Lakers Heat. And if they did, we're going to have to do something for them.
Yes.
But my pick last summer was Clippers, 76ers. 76ers were probably the most disappointing team of the year, if we're being honest. It has to be over with. I think they already fired the coach. If they haven't, I'm sure that's next. It's coming. And they're going to have to make a decision. And I think I may be looking at the perspective from, within my purple and gold glasses, but I think holding on to Simmons would probably be the smartest thing to do, in my opinion. I think he could be a lead or be a leader on a team that is active or playing within the same scheme of where the league is going from a whole. And I think then, they could work on getting more shooters, spreading the floor, and getting guys that just are athletic, big men, hustle guys that would, help on the defensive side and rebounding once the shot goes up on offense. But with that said, I think the biggest shock, of the playoffs of the bubble was the Clippers losing to the Denver Nuggets after going up 3-1. All year you hear the same thing about them being the most talented team in the league, and they probably is. And I thought Kyle Hurd brought up a good point the other day when he said that if you take a look at the teams that's left outside the Lakers, it's a bunch of young teams. Older teams kind of like to have their routine, and there's nothing routine about this bubble situation.
Yes.
So I thought that was kind of an interesting observation that this is kind of more up there, older players have families, kids. They want to see their family, they want to see their kids. Whereas young guys like the Nuggets, even the Celtics and the Heat, it really is all about ball. Ball is life.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So it's I find that interesting. But what I really found interesting was how bad not only Kawhi, but it's getting fulfilling prophecy on PG that he just looks not good in the playoffs. He is not a reliable second option in the playoffs at all. I thought that it might be a situation that he was just in two bad situations, Indiana and Oklahoma City. But the more and more he get opportunities to play in the playoffs, it comes blatantly obvious that that's not in him. Sort of like what I say about the eyebrows, Anthony Davis. He just ain't got no dog in him. Anthony Davis ain't got no dog in him. No true dog. He is just uber talented and almost 7 feet tall. But he don't have a dog in him that just like, yo, I'm gonna will my team to this victory, or at least not dog enough to where he'd do it night in, night out. But with that said, currently Miami, as we sit today, Miami is up 2-0 on Boston. Boston is probably going to be, if they get beat, to me, if they get beat by the Heat, they'll probably be the second most disappointing team in the East. Third most disappointing team in the NBA, behind both the 76ers and the Clippers. Anything beyond Western Conference Final was a disappointment for the Clippers, and that's true. Like, look, man, you guys are better than the team that beat you. Period. End of discussion. And LA played Denver last night in the first game after being out for I think about a week. They were out for about a week. And it's interesting. I find it funny. They were actually like the game behind. So like when the Clippers and the Nuggets played like game 2, they were just on game 1. And so they would play that game 2 after. So when they went up 3-1, they were thinking, and I think they were up 3-0 or something like to that effect. And they were like, well, when they went up 3-0, they were like, well, Clippers will win tomorrow night, and then they'll come in, finish the series out, and then they'll start in the next 2 or 3 days, that type of deal. And then they got like 6 days off. I mean, that's what I guess that's the classic example of don't count your eggs before they hatch. Because they got a whole 6 days off, almost a week, and now they're ready. I mean, these boys had to come out for a 7-game series, but they actually had they back against the wall. Good thing though, they're a young team. So, but honestly, man, after last night, I watched a little bit of last night's game against the Nuggets. I see gentlemen sweep. Gentlemen sweep. Especially if they win tomorrow night. If they win Sunday and go up 2-0, that gentleman sweep. This is different. So here's the thing I would say about LeBron. LeBron beats the teams he's supposed to beat. Outside of the Mavericks, he beats the team he's supposed to beat. Man, bro, I kind of feel like Miami's gonna win in 6. Cause I feel like Boston got 2 in them. Like I feel like they're gonna win tonight. Then they'll lose the next game, win the next game, and then get closed out, Wednesday night, 4-2. But yeah, and in both instances, like, and that's the funny thing about it, man, or somewhat funny. So the Clippers, in their last 2 games, they had a situation in the second half where they were up double digits, still managed to lose. Boston been doing the same thing in the first 2 games. They'll be up double digits. I think it was like I think first game was like 19 points, and then it was up again last night. Thursday night, I think 19 points. Like, man, they all in the second half. So it's like I said, Boston is probably headed to being the second most disappointing team in the East, third in the NBA, based on expectations. And to be quite honest with you, I think that series is over. I think it's gonna go 6. I think they're gonna make it interesting. I think the Lakers are gonna at least do a gentleman's sweep, if not an outright sweep. I think tomorrow's gonna. If they go up 2-0, I think they. If they go up 3-0, I put it like that. They go up 3-0, it's a sweep. With that said, moving on, a little bit of recap, NFL talk. So, last week, NFL got started. NFL season started. I have to be honest with you, man. I'm a true Blue Saints fan.
Yes.
I watched the game through and through. I think, as far as our roster is concerned, I think, shout out to my boy, Myron Frazier. This may indeed be the most talented team we had since our last championship. But we only going to go as far as Drew take us, man. And this motherfucker, bro, last week was not a good showing for his ass. He looked horrendous.
Yes.
He couldn't get the ball downfield. I mean, literally, like halfway through the game, my man was like, yo, we may need to go ahead and bench his ass and put Jameis in.
Yes.
Fuck, man. Shit. Like, what the fuck? That's how bad he looked. This motherfucker didn't throw for 170 yards. It's going to be a long season, man. I don't, I try to put on some rosy colored glasses. I really said, I mentioned, yo, man, Denver won with Peyton, bro. And, like, it wasn't on him. He was just good enough. And he sit back, sent the most fucking ominous text of all time. But so clear.
Yes.
So fucking clear. Yeah, man, that was before Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, man, we're going to have to score the fucking ball.
Yes.
Fuck! So it's safe to say that I'm a little petrified on the rest of the season. We have a good team, man. And to be quite honest with you, we have maybe 1 or 2 more years of being relevant. And then we're going to fall out for about 2.5, 3 years. We maxed out on the cap all the way. And we got guys coming up that we got to pay. And not only that, but we are committed to over $200 million in salary. But The cap goes to 170 next year, so we're gonna be cutting some motherfuckers.
Yes.
So this is kind of like our last run, man. It's fucking pouring down outside right now. At any rate, so this is our last run, man. And it's becoming blatantly obvious to me that it may be one of those situations where Drew's the reason why we don't get shit done.
Yes.
I hope I am wrong, but that just is what it is. With that said, just taking a look at week one, just kind of a quick recap on week one. I don't understand how Bill O'Brien still has a job. That's just telling you mediocrity in Houston is expected and accepted, and is the goal. That man should have been fired 2 years ago. I know a lot of people out there be like, I don't advocate for people firing, but in this case, and I truly feel like that most times.
Yes.
But in this case, I feel like this motherfucker should have been fired 2 years ago. And it's unfortunate because Deshaun deserves so much better. He's not gonna get it. Now he's gonna make great money.
Yes.
But he ain't gonna win any fucking football game. I think one of the Washington victory last week was crazy.
Yes.
I mean, everyone's favorite unsung quarterback and Wentz shit the bed again.
Yes.
I'm happy for Hastings because, they were giving him a raw deal.
Yes.
A lot over the last year. Like, how those fucking apples, motherfucker? Let a second half comeback. So I'm happy for that. Hopefully they can keep it going. I mean, although I feel like if I had to, no, it's between them and New York as the two worst teams in the NFC East. So, and they beat one of the better teams in the NFC East. So this is a microcosm of why the Dallas Cowboys stay relevant. They're just a slightly above average team, and because they're in the shitty NFC East,
yes,
you know what I'm saying? It's like they're a good team. You guys suck. The thing about the Packers, man, I just don't think defensively they're ever as good as they say they are. And the same with the Vikings, man. I don't know how good they really are. I think they're both are solid teams, but I don't know if either one of them are any good. The Ravens beat the shit out of the Browns. Like, that was disappointing. But I think, and we'll get into that in a second about Baker Mayfield. I'll circle back on him, but the Ravens are the best team in that division. I'm not even gonna get into the Colts and the Jags. I was disappointed in the Panthers and the Raiders. But on the flip side of that, I will say this about the Panthers and the Raiders. It makes me feel good that we can go in there and get a victory, although I feel like we're going to lose that game. Like, if this was a normal season and it was a pack house, I feel like we'll lose that game.
Yes.
So this actually helps us, not having anybody in the stands, or at least not a packed house. I'm not going to talk about the Bears or the Lions. Fuck them. Seahawks and the Falcons, I don't really care. I was happy for Cam.
Yes.
Got that dub. I'm going to circle back on Joe Burrow in a second. But as he did in week 2 on Thursday night, he handled himself well in week 1. But at the same time, it's nothing that I didn't think was it's not he's not performing better than I thought he would. He's actually doing exactly what I thought he was.
Yes.
costly mistake in the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter, that probably cost them the game. Because could have scored that time and then got the ball back and scored again and won outright. Rams Cowboys, man, like I said, bro, I don't understand. Like, it's the NFC East. They're tied to like New York, Washington, and Philly. I would imagine out of all the conferences, those are the four. As a composite, those are the largest media markets in the league. And man, bro, I'm tired of these motherfuckers talking about the Cowboys, man. I'm tired of turning on goddamn First Take and fucking Get Up and fucking First Things First and fucking Speak Your Mind or whatever that shit is with Shannon and the old white man. I forget his name. Why are y'all talking about the goddamn Cowboys, man? They haven't been relevant on a year-in, year-out basis in over 20 years. Now, there are some exceptions in there. You know, a few years here and there. But on a year-to-year basis, they haven't made the fucking playoffs. And yet they are always a fucking A-block fucking team. I'm tired of them motherfuckers, bro. Put them bitches where they belong. Yes. Back of the fucking bus. Steelers did exactly what they're supposed to do with the Giants. We'll see how good they really are. I like to think that they're the second best team in this AFCs behind the Ravens. We'll see more. I mean, they're playing the Giants. And then Titans, Broncos, I mean, you know, it is what it is. Both of those are, you know, Titans totally over-accomplished last year. I don't expect the same thing out of this year. Tannehill's going to come back to earth as he, you know, always does. And, you know, the Broncos, they're a young team. You know, Drew Lock is cool and all, but we'll see. I mean, it's a prove it. He's in almost like a prove it year at this point. And, you know, we'll see. With that said, man, kind of starting with the Thursday night game, week 2, Bengals, Browns. I think the Browns overall are a more talented team. I feel like a lot of the pundits, particularly Kyle Hurd, really shit on the Browns way more than they need to. I feel like with the right quarterback, the Browns will be a damn good team. They have enough talent everywhere. Like he was taking pot shots of like the defense, and if I'm being honest with you, they front four is, I would imagine, you know, top line, probably not depth wise, but like Rankins and fucking the kid out of Alabama and fucking Myles Garrett. Like, yo, dude, those guys are like top 10 at their position. Both of them. And you got them starting. I'm like, yo, man, those are problems with anyone they play. And I think their secondary and linebackers are better than what people give them credit for. It's just, you know, offense put them in bad situation. You know, it's like they all, you know, motherfuckers always never take that into account when they start talking about defenses. Like, did the offense put the defense in a bad situation? Unless they like the team. But they don't like the Browns. I say all that to say this. You know, the Browns are one of my teams that I like to pay attention to because they have a lot of Tigers on the team. I think they have like 5 Tigers on the team. They have linebacker, 2 cornerback, 2 DBs, and 2 wide receivers, and I think there's one more guy. I think there's like 5-6 guys on the team that went to LSU. So they're kind of like one of my teams that I hope to do well. But honestly, man, I just feel like that dog ain't gonna go nowhere because of who they got leading. I think at the end of the day, the narrative on Baker Mayfield has finally caught up with him, in the sense that, he's always been sort of like the underdog. They never, he always had a chip on his shoulder, and he always had, to prove his doubters wrong, as kind of like that chip on his shoulder. I think in college, that works, in the sense that when it's all said and done, it's hard to put a number or accurately measure someone's competitive nature, like how much the competitive spirit will enhance this person's, play on the field. And I think anyone that knows, Baker knows that competitive nature is what, he has that most don't. Like that's his differentiator.
Yes.
When it comes to playing ball. But from a talent perspective, they've been right on this motherfucker since high school. I mean, he has a decent arm. It's not a special arm.
Yes.
His problem is, at this level, he doesn't realize that now you are just another guy. And as a quarterback, you can make a lot of money being the other guy if you are willing to accept the fact that you are not special.
Yes.
And I really feel like that's going to, at the end of the day, be his problem. He wants to, quote unquote, be special. He wants to be, that guy. And I don't think he is. If he were to realize that, I need to take care of the ball, where I have opportunities to, be aggressive, then I'll be aggressive. But otherwise, I'm going to hand the ball off and just be a caretaker of the offense. This motherfucker could end up making, $300 million over the next 15 years. Maybe even $500 million if they fuck around, and win a championship. But if he is hell-bent on trying to be that nigga.
Yes.
He's going to be a backup in 2 years.
Yes.
Now, moving on to the Bengals. Again, this is one of those ones where I will personally take a shot at Kyle Hurd.
Yes.
And, I don't think Kyle Hurd gives Joy enough credit on this one, because he totally missed on Joe Burrow. And I bring this up primarily because I typically watch a lot of New Orleans and Baton Rouge-based kind of sports TV or YouTube channels based on my team. I'm a fan of all things Louisiana.
Yes.
So Saints, Pelicans, LSU, Southern, those are my team. And I try to get my fix when I can. With that said, the narrative in the spring of this year, and even, this spring following the championship game, is that Joe Burrow was a marginal talent. And, to a certain degree, maybe he is. I'm not going to sit here and say he's, the best talent to come through, the draft or the NFL in the last 20 years. No, I'm not saying that. But what I don't like is when guys like Kyle Hurd, who blatantly and knowingly know that they don't pay attention to certain guys, take a hard stance on guys without actually doing the research. Now, what I will say is this. I do sort of like the analogy that he is Tony Romo. I think that may actually be right. You know, I think that's a good comp. I don't know if he actually came up with it. Someone told him. And he just gets to run with it because he's on national TV. But I do think I can say that that's a fair comp. But at the same time, I also get why people did the same, you know, with saying Tom Brady. Because I would say the same thing. Like, my initial, and again, you know, I'm not an aficionado. I don't spend my whole day on football. Live, breathe football. You know, I have a 9 to 5. I have a life. I like football. I spend a lot of time watching and seeing the game. And, you know, I appreciate the game so much that, you know, that I don't do fantasy football. Kind of appreciate the game. Because I don't want a motherfucker to pass the ball when they should be running. Or I want this other guy to run the ball, not this guy. You know, like, man, that it's all about it's a team game. And when you start, you know, bringing importance to individual performances as opposed to the overall performance of the team, you know, I start losing interest. But I say all that to say this, you know, to get back on topic about Joe Burrow and the analogy of Tom Brady. I would never forget about 7-8 games in, it probably was right around either right after or right before the Alabama game. I never forget, I actually had to calm my homeboy down. Like, he uses a motherfucker that calmed me down. He was like, no, bro, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. And I never forget, he was like, day of the game, we texted before the game, and he's like, man, I don't know, bro. I was like, dude, I'm going to be honest with you. I've been honest with you. Auburn had the better defensive line. Auburn has the best. Auburn defensive line is what Clemson defensive line was last year. And they were the ones that gave us the biggest issue. And now we know, we have the cheap test now. We know exactly what they're going to try to do now. And the reason why that game was so close was because that's the first time they saw it. And we still put up 500 yards. So they didn't really stop us. We just didn't get in the end zone as much. And now we get in the end zone. And I'm like, dude. And Joe's the guy now. Like, I wasn't sure. I was at the game last year. I wasn't sure. I actually was, like, disappointed in him in the 2018 game. Totally disappointed in his ass. But going into that game, I knew it. I was like, man, this dude, bro, we gonna beat these motherfuckers' ass, bro. Yeah, we better than them. But I say that to say this. After the game, I mentioned it. Because, you know, the thing about it is this. No one's actually saying that he's going to be as successful as Tom Brady. It's, do he have characteristics and traits of Tom Brady? So, and to that, I would say he fucking does.
Yes.
You know, played at a big-time institution. Tom Brady of Michigan. You know, Joe Burrow, Ohio State, and LSU. Majority at LSU, if you want to talk about when he actually played. Wasn't the biggest recruit ever coming out of high school. You know, his opportunity was short-circuit by more talented or more touted recruits coming in. Both of them. Everyone questioning their athleticism or the strength of their arm. Now, to this, Joe Burrow, probably not as much as Tom Brady as far as the athleticism. But I've heard, and Kyle Hurd being one of them, question how athletic really is he and how good is he really. And that's the same thing that Tom Brady came out. And at that point, you know, of the year after they won that game, I was like, he's a first rounder. he probably still not a first pick guy, top of the draft guy, but he's definitely a 20 to 32 guy. And instantly I reached out to my dude and I was like, man, if these motherfuckers let this motherfucker get to the end of the first round draft, and they haven't drafted his ass, this will be the first time you ever see the New England Patriots move up in the first round to draft a quarterback.
Yes.
So like, his characteristics are just too similar to Tom. They both about 6'4". They're both about 230, 240. They both have this, intense competitiveness in them. They both have this, drive within them, and they're smart, hitty football players. Neither one of them have the strongest arm. Joey's a little more athletic to him, and they all have that similar, I'm gonna show you type attitude. And if he would have got drafted in the back of the first round, he still would have had that. I mean, he still has it now in Cincinnati. But I feel like the comp to Brady is fair in the sense that look what type of programs they played at. Look how people like yourself doubted them. Maybe they doubted Tom a little more, but that was probably because the way Tom looked at the draft combine, and the fact that he splitted his last year as a senior with a freshman. Now, granted, the freshman was supposed to be the next, Babe Ruth for all intents and purposes, but, he was there. And in that system, I feel like it would have been the same. Like, he would have stepped right in and kept the torch going. Now, would he have won 6 championships? I don't know. I ain't going to give you that. But what I can say is he would have definitely kept the ball rolling. And I say that to say that in this game Thursday night, he just, again, proved that he was the guy. He is a franchise quarterback worthy of being the first overall pick, which, again, the Kyle Hurds of the world were, like, questioning. To which I also say, I don't think he gives Joy enough credit. Because Joy said from the beginning she wanted him in Miami and wished and hoped that they would try to move up to get him. To which I just think she's looking smarter and smarter every day. And I don't think he ever really acknowledged it. So I'm going to keep bringing that up as the year go by. But I feel like he's showing out and doing exactly what, I thought he was going to do. Look, last year, I literally was like, man, this guy is essentially a professional quarterback. And he's putting it on the numbers. Does he have the strongest arm? No. The guy behind him actually has a strong arm. Miles Brennan has the strongest arm on the team. Had the strongest arm on the team. Now I think it's probably T.J. Finley, another freshman. But you know what I'm saying? You don't need that if you have timing and you know the routes and you got everything figured out. And that's the type of quarterback he is. If Cincinnati can finally get some pieces around him, specifically invest in the fucking offensive line over the next 2 years, I think they're going to win a lot of games. Yeah, I think they're going to win a lot of games. Damn, I thought I got that motherfucker out. With that said, moving on to week 2 action. Giants, Bears. I'm going to go Bears. They're at home. Rams, Eagles. I think what's going to happen with the Rams, Rams going to win this week and lose. No. Who played the Jets this week? 49. Yes. I like the Rams on the road at the Eagles. I think Falcons, Cowboys. think the Cowboys gonna get this one. Buccaneers, Panthers. I'm gonna go to the Nears and Buccaneers. 49ers, Jets. 49ers. I think they're gonna get 2 straight because I think they're staying out there for 2 weeks. I think they play the Giants next week as well. So I think they're gonna win the next 2 games. I think they just like the Jets and the Giants suck. Broncos, Steelers. I would like to see this game. I want to see. I want to see if it was an anomaly about this Steelers team. I mean, I believe in Roethlisberger as a quarterback. I think he's still the best quarterback for that team. But I just want to see it again. But at the same time, they're kind of playing against the same type of team. Like the Broncos and the Giants are pretty much the same type of team. It's just I think the Broncos may be a little more talented. Jaguars, Titans. I'm going to go Titans. Lions, Packers. Lions suck. That's another situation where, fucking over Jim Caldwell. Them and the Colts. Both of them done it. Jim Caldwell should still be a head coach in this league. The Lions are going to get what they got coming to them. And the same for the Colts. Like, they literally fired, a winning head coach. Like, literally, Jim Caldwell has a winning record in all his stops. So, the Lions are going to take that L. Bills, Dolphins. I like the Bills as a whole. But I think the Dolphins going to get that one. I'm going to go Vikings over the Colts. I'm going to go Washington or the Cardinals. I'm going to give that to Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are just a better team. They're playing at home. Ravens, Texans. The Ravens are going to beat a mud hole in the fucking Texans. Chiefs, Chargers. We're going to go Chiefs. Patriots, Seahawks. I want to see Cam get another one, baby. I'm going to go Patriots on that one, man. Although I can't freely admit the Seahawks should win. And Saints, Raiders, Monday Night Football. I'm going to go with these Saints, man. Fuck them niggas.
Yes.
With that said, move over to a little bit of college football. To be quite honest with you, man, there's not much going on over there in college football. I mean, Big 12 is playing, but, I mean, who count them? And, if we're being real honest about the situation, the ACC only has, 3.25 teams that are actually good. And when I say 3.25, I'm saying Clemson, 1, and then I give Miami, Notre Dame, and UNC 3/4 of 1. So that's how I get the 3.25 teams in the ACC. And I just be quite frank with you and honest. I think UNC is a year away. I think Notre Dame's overrated. And I think Miami's going to probably be the surprise school because I think Derek King is going to win a game or two for Miami that they would have lost, a year ago or 2. So I totally feel like they're going to win 7 games minimum. Miami. They're going to be at least 7 games in. They're going to win at least 7 games, 7, 8 games. What, they got 10-1? So, yeah, I think they're going to win about at least 8 games. So they're going to be kind of the surprise team, and they're going to beat a UNC or a Notre Dame, and it's going to hurt their record. And I feel like both of those teams probably going to lose 3-4 games. Just because I think UNC is a little too young. And I feel like Notre Dame is just overrated. I mean, look, man, Notre Dame, I don't feel like Notre Dame's ever going to be back fully to Notre Dame until they allow the head coach of the football team to recruit athletes like they were able to recruit in the 80s and early 90s. I think sometime in like the mid to late 90s, the institution put a restriction on the type of exceptions they would make for football players. And ever since then, they've been struggling. I mean, they made a couple national championship appearance or playoff appearances, but they never were like real competitors in that. So, but other than that, you know, everyone else is just sort of just playing ball. I mean, just to be playing. A lot of the prognosticators like to think that the group of five have a real chance of getting into it this year, and I laugh at that because
Yes.
I laugh at that because the goal is to get the 4 best teams, not the 4 most deserving teams.
Yes.
And in that instance, the 4 best teams are going to be the 4 best teams. Period. UNC, I'm watching the UFC Georgia Tech game right now. UCF will never be the 4th best team.
Yes.
Now, could they be the 4th of the most deserving teams? Yes.
Yes.
But they would never be one of the best 4 teams in the country. They just never will. The same way anyone in the Sun Belt. Appalachian State, Middle Tennessee State, you know, ULL. I mean, dude, and I like, you know what I'm saying, I like some of these teams. They just never going to do that. And now that the Big Ten is back in the picture, it's over with, baby. They ain't getting in, man. Stop this charade.
Yes.
This fucking charade. But with that said, the main reason why I want to talk about the college football season this year is more or less just to, you know, speak on a segment that was on College Football Live this past week, where Joey Galloway went at Coach O, LSU. And so to sort of, you know, not, you know, play any, you know, pull any punches, or so you understand exactly where I'm coming from, I'm going to go ahead and play a bit of what he had to say about Coach O.
Greg, that actually makes me laugh to hear your take on that. You make it sound like we're talking about these guys caught a cold. I don't recall at any point in time hearing about the LSU program shutting down because of COVID. We've had all summer long teams shutting down, programs having to take time off because guys caught it. You make it sound like, oh, well, 30 guys caught it. They went to a bar. He is saying most of his players, and then backing that up with, I'm not sure how many. It just really sounds uninformed. And when you say, hopefully, my guys don't catch it again, that makes me worry. And so in this situation, when so many people have taken so many steps to be protected and worry about this situation, that sounds very uninformed. And if I was a player, if I was a parent with a player on that team, it would make me worry about the way he nonchalantly just threw that out there. Number one, it's not something that you put to bed because this thing is continuing. And my point is, that doesn't sound good. It's a bad look for Coach O, it's a bad look for LSU, and it's a bad look for the SEC. When a lot of people around the country already think that the SEC is taking this lightly. So you have a head coach, one of your main head coaches in the conference of the SEC, coming out saying, hopefully my guys don't catch it again. Well, it has been proven that people can catch it 2 times. And so when you have that out in front, and you're saying, hopefully, that doesn't make me feel comfortable if I'm on your team. It doesn't make me feel comfortable if I have to play against you. And when you say, I don't know how many of my guys caught it, that is a terrible look. It's awful. And this is what makes people worry. And this is why guys are opting out. And this is why players are saying we need a voice in the room because of statements like this from coaches, from leaders, from people who are making decisions. That is a terrible look by Coach O. There's no point in making the statement. You don't have to tell me anything. What I'm saying is, and you're right, none of us are doctors, but there is information out there that we have access to. And so the first thing I thought when he said, hopefully our guys don't catch it again, well, it's already been proven that you can catch it again. And so all I'm saying is, you're right. This is a decision made by players on a team, and they may decide to play. But when a coach, when a leader makes these kind of statements, it undercuts what people are believing, that these guys are doing everything they can to protect these players, and it comes across as uninformed. It comes across as nonchalantly throwing it out there. I don't know how many. And when you put hopefully in a sentence 2 times, you're talking about a medical situation. That doesn't make me feel good, and it doesn't make me feel good if I had to go play against this team. That's all I'm saying. It's a terrible statement that makes the situation look worse.
All right, so I think, for all intents and purposes, I listened to this rant live. I think that was on a Wednesday, and it just reeked of the East Coast elitists. Snobbery of like the Big Ten conference, and Joey Galloway is a Big Ten guy who went to Ohio State, so it fits. But I think the biggest thing that I found it rich, and I'm gonna hit this on 2 different. I'm gonna take this conversation to 2 different places. The first place is I'm gonna address exactly what he just said. As far as, Coach O, how he addressed it, and then how serious the situation is. So the first thing I'll say is, so this is the same coach that 4 years ago, these same East Coast elitists, Big Ten, Northeast elitists, like the Joey Galloways of the world, were saying they didn't know if this was the right pick for the LSU job. They didn't think he was sophisticated enough for this job. And I just say this is exactly, this is just another example of how that point of view, that acknowledgement was correct.
Yes.
I mean, Coach O would never be as sophisticated as Urban Meyer or Nick Saban, Jumbo Fisher, Lincoln Riley. He's never going to be that type of guy. Coach O is a knuckle-dragging football guy. And what Coach O proved to you elitists is that you don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. You don't have to be the most well put together, have the best statement to come out on Saturday afternoons and beat your fucking ass.
Yes.
And the reason, I guess, the biggest thing that really got into my craw about this, to use a pun from an earlier episode, is the fact that he said a lot in it. Like, for instance, I haven't heard LSU shut down. Well, have you done any research? Obviously, you haven't. Because if you did some due diligence, like you're supposed to as a journalist or whatever commentator, you would see that over the past 6 weeks, guys have been held out of practice for an extended period of time, several times. In fact, I would say within 2 weeks, in the last 2 weeks, like say for instance, right around the Labor Day break, like literally they had like a week or so of practice where they only had 4 fucking offensive linemen in practice because the other 8 were either, I think it was like 2 or 3 actually had the COVID, and then the other 5 or 6 were just like, they were in the vicinity of, so they had them all stay out. So they've been dealing with it the whole fucking time. And I guess what also, upset me about the situation was just the fact that, the Big Ten, this guy in particular, like they using or they benefiting off of the work that, you know, the SEC, the ACC, the Big 12 did. You know, they took all the arrows, like while they were, you know, in the shade, cooling it. You know what I'm saying? They what they thought was going to happen was they, you know, pull a big dick move and we all acquiesce to it and do the same thing. And then as we did the tough work, the hard work of actually working through it, seeing what we can do, how to approach it, and still be moving towards a football season, they were able to use those lessons learned and come back after the fact. Look, at the end of the day, everything that they've done so far, everything that they're saying that, you know, they took into account and why they feel comfortable doing, all that would have been available if they would have kept the season going forward. You know what I'm saying? They were cowards. They were cowards. And now people like the Joey Galleries of the world trying to take pot shots when fucking Big Ten schools like Penn State has 50 fucking players test positive, hold out of practice on this same goddamn day that he got that Coach O said this same thing. Penn State, same day, same Wednesday, held 50 players out of practice. Are you scared to play them? Because they actually in your fucking conference, Joey. Like, look, on one hand, I can completely admit that Coach O has been putting his foot in his fucking mouth all fucking off season.
Yes.
Like, God damn it, Coach. Just be a fucking coach. You're not a politician. You know what I'm saying? Stay your ass at the fucking Ponderosa.
Yes.
Don't go on fucking Fox News. Don't talk about Trump. Don't even help, you know, the Louisiana governor. You know what I'm saying? You got to take the good with the bad. But I still feel like it's rich for those guys to take pot shots and not do their homework. You know, fucking Ohio State, the Big Ten, who knows what they've been doing over the last eight weeks since they shut down. Who knows what they're going to get once they start back up. Are you going to be that fervent when Ohio State start testing positive? No, because he's a fucking coward.
Yes.
All these fucking Big Ten elitists, they all want to hold their nose up to us Southerners and, you know, take pot shots about, oh, we're doing it the best way, when you were cowards. That's exactly what you were. Cowards. You allowed us to do the hard work. And now you feel comfortable coming back. And now you got guys like Joey Galloway taking shots. When, again, Penn State on the same goddamn day held out 50 players due to COVID. That's half your fucking team, if you don't know, Joey.
Yes.
Are you scared to play them? Because they actually in your conference. Fuck. But with that said, you know, that's all I really have to say on that notion. But I think the other notion is I had the pleasure of listening to a college football segment on the series channel for college football. And I forget the coach's name, but Newhouser, his show. And they were talking about all that they do for college players and how, you know, we can do more, but, you know, they still value the scholarship, which I do as well. But, you know, he still comes out against paying players. So, in my infinite wisdom,
Yes.
I did a quick little math in my head. Now, what I would say is this. I don't know if this would work or not, but at the same time, what I do know is it's doable. It's possible. In the sense that you could pay players a wage while they're in school and going to class, sort of like a GA. In fact, $25,000, $30,000 a year for all your scholarship players. Think about it like this. For $1 million, you could pay, 40 players, $25,000 a year? How many of these head coaches make north of $5 million? That's at least 10. How many of these coaches make north of $2 million? Like, yo, man, sooner or later we're going to have to realize that these coaches make entirely too much fucking money to be a fucking head coach of a fucking game in college. Why is it okay for them to make $7 million, but the kid that's actually doing the actual hard lifting, heavy lifting on the field, can't earn fuck. I wouldn't even say $25,000 is a living wage.
Yes.
But at least they're being paid something while they're in school. They're being compensated for their talents other than, this. But at the same time, I mean, it could definitely be a situation where freshmen make 20 and every year you bump up 2,500 to where senior and fifth year seniors make $30,000 a year while they're in school or while they're in the season. And if they go to a bowl game, they get a bonus. You know what I'm saying? A $2,500 bonus, $5,000 bonus, however much money the school get. There's money there. Like, I don't see why a coach should make more than $1 million a year. That is still insanely a lot of fucking money.
Yes.
That is a lot of fucking money. People keep asking where the money's going to come from. Well, there it is. You paying motherfuckers $3 million. Like, you got fucking Power 5 schools paying their head coaches $3 million.
Yes.
There's the money. There's the fucking money. And I'm, I think a lot of people like to think, $100,000, $75,000, $1 million for these players. I ain't thinking that. I'm just thinking, hey, they should be paid. They should be compensated. They're making money. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're making the institution money. The money's winning off of them. They should get paid. Now, a lot of people start bringing up, well, then who else should, like, everyone should be able to be paid. If you ain't making no fucking money, you don't get paid, man. Like, look, you go to college to learn these things, to learn these principles, how to run a business, right? Rule number one, if you ain't making no money, if you ain't cutting a profit in your business, you're not making no fucking money.
Yes.
So if you a swimmer, softball player, track person, and the program ain't making no money, well, there's no money to go around. You're really there to get your education, to get that education. I don't see where the problem is at that. You got your scholarship, right? You only make money when there's money to be made. And ain't no money to be made in every sport, just about every sport except for football and basketball. There are some exceptions here and there, because I know, at LSU, the baseball team makes a profit here and there. But it ain't even enough to pay them boys.
Yes.
But for all intents and purposes, that's all I had today on the college talk. I mean, I thought again the Joey Galloway positioning on the Coach O again. I didn't like the way he said it either, but I felt it was very condescending how he approached and addressed Coach O's statement. Coach O is that a knuckle-dragging football coach that no one thought he was good enough for the LSU job when he got it. Hell, I didn't think he was.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? But again, he proved one thing to everyone out there, and that is you don't have to be well put together to whoop someone's ass on the weekend. Period. With that said, the last topic I'm going to talk about, LoveCraft country, man. I don't know how many people out there actually pay attention to LoveCraft country, but it's one of my favorite shows right now. Wanted to do a very high-level review on it. Today, September 19th, we're going to episode 6. We're a little over halfway through. Make sure to look out for us on our our Twitter account at Hot Takes Half Truth at HT Square Pod on Twitter. Sunday nights we do a live tweet of LoveCraft Country, and we'll definitely be there this weekend. I will definitely be there this weekend. So, he blew that boy up. But at any rate, I just kind of wanted to go over it. Really love the show. It's a good show. I will say it can kind of meander a bit and go places that I didn't necessarily I'm not interested in. But for all intents and purposes, you can look at it, high level. It's about a young man that's traveling across the United States, a young black man in the 1950s looking for his father, at least from the beginning. I heard someone say that you should look at it as an anthropology and anthropology, in the sense that you don't look at it as a series, but sort of like a collection of episodes put together. And I definitely would agree with that. But with that said, I just kind of wanted to go over the first 5 episodes, real high level. I won't, if you want some reviews, I can definitely put some reviews, particularly on the YouTube site, that do a pretty good job of it, and that they will definitely be your guys. But it starts with episode 1, Sundown. Atticus is the main character. Atticus Freeman is on the bus headed back to Chicago, and he's dreaming, and he's at war, and it's sort of crazy because it's all over the place. There's like real aliens, people coming out of the ground, monsters. Your boy, who broke the color barrier? Hank Williams. 42. With the bat, beat up the monster, saved him, and then he wakes up in the back of a bus, headed through Kentucky. I'll be honest with you, man. I enjoyed the first episode. I wasn't one of the guys that was able to get the first 5 episodes of the show and watch it through. I would have loved to be able to do that. But I would say this. I enjoyed the first episode. It showed him coming back to Chicago, meeting up with his Uncle George and Auntie Hippothydin. Let's just call her H. She has a very weird name. And his cousin/sister, Diana, in the South Side of Chicago. both Uncle George and Tick is into fantasy literature, and they sort of bond over that. And his father Montrose, didn't really enjoy it, and for all intents and purposes, try to get Tick not to indulge in it. But in this case, Montrose has sent a letter to Tick, sort of talking about their ancestry and kind of he wanted him to come find him. And in this episode, him, Tick, Uncle George, and Letty, Miss Smollett. And Miss Smollett is looking good.
Yes.
In this fucking show. Hit the road and trying to find Montrose. Along the way, they made several stops. Uncle George has a kind of a magazine or booklet where he kind of tells black people where they can and can't go, sort of like to let them know where they'll be safe. And he used these type of trips to sort of iron out the latest episode of his almanac. And this particular time, they had a situation in a county where it was a sundown county. And they already kind of knew about the officer at this county, and they wanted to avoid him. But unfortunately, they got lost trying to find Artem. And ran smack into this sheriff. So lo and behold, the sheriff tries to slows them down trying to get out the county, and lo and behold, the sheriff pulls them over, brings them to the woods, about to kill Tick, Letty, and Uncle George, when all of a sudden they hear the screeching of these monsters that eventually come and eat and kills the majority of all of the officers involved, at which there was about 5. And the episode this is one of my I won't say that this episode was my favorite episode, but it was definitely an enjoyable one. At the end of the episode, they end up in Artem at the mansion that they was looking for. And I can say episode 2 and I believe episode 2 and episode 4 are my 2 favorite episodes of the season. Episode 2 was encapsulate the order in which what is it called? The Order of Adam, I believe they call themselves. And it's essentially Tick's ancestry group, that his ancestor who, for all intents and purposes, raped his ancestors, is the slave woman. It was very interesting because, at the beginning of the episode, Letty and Uncle George were enjoying the better side of things. Like, Letty had all kinds of clothes and stuff to try on, and they all fit her. Uncle George had all his favorite books, and Tick was the only one in there that was just sort of like, man, what's going on? In fact, he was the only one that remembered the night before with all the monsters and what happened with the cops. So, very interesting episode. Very poignant in the sense that when they finally allowed them to remember what happened, and how they were sort of, treated like animals in a zoo during that time frame when they were dealing with imaginary beings, all 3 in the house. Tick was dealing with the Asian woman that I think he probably ended up killing that he talks to on the phone pretty regularly. Letty was dealing with Tick. And then, interesting fact, but funny thing about it is, first episode I told my co-host, Just King, and he could tell you, I was like, I think George is probably Tick's father, because I feel like that picture he was looking at in his wallet that he took out was Tick's mom, and there's no reason for him to have a picture of her when he has a wife.
Yes.
And this segment pretty much confirmed that to me when he was dancing with her and all. And then I guess another poignant point was Uncle George getting up in that bitch and just shutting shop down and at the dinner and just pontificating like a motherfucker. And then Tick getting up at the end saying, "Get the fuck out."
Yes.
Like, interesting shit, man. It was a great episode. I think from a pure script writing perspective, episode 2 right now is my favorite one. I can clearly, without a doubt, tell you episode 5 is my least interesting one. I did not like episode 5 at all. I was fast forwarding through episode 5 a few times here and there. Letty gets shot, she dies. Uncle George gets shot and is hurt. They need Tick to take part in a ritual, and so they bring back Letty, and then the guess is that, or the guys is that they're gonna heal George upon completion of the ritual, to which the ritual, as you would probably know, did not complete, but finish, or at least not finish well. And subsequently, Uncle George dies in this one. So, episode 2 was an incredible episode. Like, oh boy, Tick, the actor that plays Tick, man, played it well. Episode 3, Holy Ghost, fairly good. I mean, it started off pretty. This is like when they start talking about it, they kind of be standalone episodes. The episode 3 is kind of the first one because it's kind of its own deal in the sense. 3 and 4 they do kind of tie similarly, very high level wise, but basically she buys with Christian Brave. I think her name is Christian Braithwaite money. Unknowingly, she thinks it's money from her dead mother. Buys a haunted house, and the whole story is about dealing with, the whites on that side of town who don't want her there, and dealing with this haunted house and getting to the bottom of it. Some of the interesting parts of the story of that episode was the dog named Baldwin. The kid dressed much like Emmett Till, and when doing the Ouija board, he asked would he enjoy himself down south, and it said no, to say the least. And also they kind of mentioned at one of the parties that like MLK wanted to marry a white woman, and they made him marry a black woman. There were some interesting parts about it. I thought the most interesting part was probably the last 10 to 12 minutes of the episode when they were trying to perform the exodus in the home, and the like neighbors kind of came in, and then how at the end like the bodies were like somewhere else, and then that ties into probably action wise my favorite episode of the season thus far was this episode 4, which is the story of violence, and it's sort of a National Treasure vibe where they go to Boston and they go to the museum and they have all this, it's a great episode. Plenty of action, plenty of twists and turns. They tie back to the house. I'm sure H kind of she knows there's more to the story now after that, because they drove to Boston, but at the end of their National Treasure heist, or they were able to go up using the elevator in Letty's house. Crazy. But in this episode, William meets Rudy for the first time. Rudy is Letty's sister, older sister. She's a darker skinned, heavier set woman. And she's kind of the main focus of episode 5, which is called Strange Case. I didn't really enjoy that episode. I can tell you right now, episode 5 was my least. I didn't like it. I was least interested in it. There was some interesting aspects of it, to the extent that how opportunity in that time could just be a matter of chance. Was just a matter of chance. How Rudy was completely overqualified for a lot of the positions in the jobs that she wanted, but she couldn't even get in the door. And if she had the opportunity to, acquiesce as a white woman, even more doors would be open for her. It was a very interesting episode. I thought it was kind of nasty with how, her and Christian would change back to their selves from like Christian from William to Christian, and then Rudy from the white woman to the black woman. It was disgusting, to say the least.
Yes.
But again, if I had to rate all the episodes, episode 2 and 4 are my 2 favorite, with 2 being my favorite from a story perspective, from a script writing perspective, 4 being from an action-based perspective, followed by probably episode 1, and then 3, and my least favorite right now. And I would imagine it'd probably be my least favorite of season 1 would be episode 5. With that said, be sure to hit the subscribe, like button on all our social media platforms. If you're watching this on YouTube, we really appreciate the thumbs up and subscribe numbers. It really helps us out. And if you're on all our other platforms, whether it's Twitter or IG at HT Square Pod, show us some love. If you want to get involved as far as like send us show ideas or questions, you can email us at htsquarepod at gmail.com. And you can also find us on Facebook and YouTube on the Hot Takes and Half Truth podcast. It's getting a little long in the tooth. I look up now. It's 2 hours in, or right at 2 hours in, and I wanted to address this probably 3 weeks ago, and it stemmed around the Kenosha, Wisconsin shooting, particularly the nonsense that happened at the protests the following night. And for all those that don't know, and at this point, I'm sure everyone knows, but the following night or 2 nights later after the original police shooting, there was a protest that a 17-year-old kid by the name of Kyle Rittenhouse, who actually is from Illinois, was bussed in by his mother to Kenosha with his AR-15, which is illegal for a 17-year-old to own, to quote-unquote protect the businesses of Kenosha. from the protesters. I got to this particular situation. I'm addressing it primarily because of an interaction I had with a friend of mine's on IG. I'm not gonna say his name. It's neither here nor there. But it's an individual that I do consider to be a friend. What it was over was essentially it was a picture of Kyle Rittenhouse with a black and white picture with Kyle Rittenhouse and his AR-15, I think from the night of the protest, and across like his midsection, terrorists. And my friend, said he didn't agree with me on that. And it's a free country. We can disagree or agree on a lot of things. And I'm sure that ain't the only thing we disagree on. If we actually, started going down the lines of everything that we agree or disagree on, or what we think is appropriate or not. And, that day, I've been thinking about it a lot. But it always, when it comes to, white men, boys in America, they never want to see themselves as the problem, which is, if you look at race as a whole, the issues that we have as a race as a whole, it stems from that as well. No one wants to, take the blunt of, well, I'm benefit from this, or I'm the bad guy. No one wants to acknowledge that, and I get that. But the reason why I'm here today talking about this particular situation is because what these people need to know, including my friend, is when you do these type of acts in those type of settings, you are a terrorist. You are terrorizing those people. Furthermore, I'm sure most people, from his line of thinking, and there's a lot from that line of thinking that think, well, I have the right, Second Amendment right to open carry my rifle, and I can, go out and protect businesses, that I feel can be taken advantage of by protesters. To which I would say there's some truth to that. Maybe even a lot of truth to that. But it's not an absolute truth.
Yes.
I said it because the overwhelming majority of the protests that happens after these events, these police shooting, these brutality incidents, are overwhelmingly nonviolent. And for you to come out there with a gun, you're antagonizing them. You're antagonizing the situation. And not only that, you are walking alongside of them, going back and forth with them with your gun. That's antagonizing. That is, those folks are terrorizing those peaceful protesters. The fact of the matter is, we pay people to protect our stores. They're called police. They are police. They're in law enforcement. They're not citizens. When I say that there's some truth to, you being able to protect the businesses, yes, in the sense that if you and I have a business, or you have a business, and you're going, and there's those protests coming through, and you need help, and you and I decide to team together. I come down with my gun, you have your guns, and maybe a couple other guys, and we protect your business. That's fair. But what's not fair is for you and I to do the same and then just walk the route. with peaceful protesters. The analogy that I would use to kind of like put it in perspective for you in particular, or folks like you in particular, is how would you feel if you and your next door neighbor get into it? And as it can happen, I've seen this happen before. In fact, this happened to my father. Your next door neighbor tree comes over to your yard and it just drops shit in your yard all the time. Like, you're frustrated. You've been telling him he needs to do something about it for years, and you finally got fed up. And so you basically remove his tree from your yard. And in return, y'all get into it. Now, what I would tell you is you can't do that.
Yes.
You would be found guilty, and you have to make him right, make him whole on the situation. So don't do that. But I say that to say this. Let's say, for instance, the situation never really resolves itself, in the sense that y'all still don't really see eye to eye. Y'all don't like each other. Now, let's say, for instance, this neighbor decides, you know what I'm going to do? Every time I go to my mailbox, I walk up the street, I take a walk up the street, anything I do around my house outside, I'm going to take my AR-15 with me. Particularly when I walk around your house, and if I see you, I'm going to look menacing at you. Now, let's say, for instance, let's take into account that maybe at this point now you got kids. They're playing in the front yard, and this motherfucker is walking on the sidewalk in your front yard in front of your kids with his AR-15 looking you up and down like there's a problem. How would you feel about that?
Yes.
Would you feel like that's acceptable behavior? Huh?
Yes.
And would you feel like that he is terrorizing you and your family? Because then I'll tell you, then why these fucking assholes can walk with quote unquote peaceful protesters, antagonizing them, going back and forth with them, instigating a situation only for them to say, oh, I fear for my life. Now I can shoot you. Like, you go out there to use the fucking gun. You go out there to instigate a situation in which you can use your gun.
Yes.
This little boy, he's a coward. But more so, I blame his mom and his pa. They did an incredibly horrendous job in raising him. He's a piece of shit little boy.
Yes.
I mean, if you do the background on him, he's kind of a piece of shit. And what I loved the most was, the typical media blitz that tried to humanize his fucking ass. No. This fucking asshole came to a peaceful protest, started some shit, felt comfortable because he had a gun, and got himself in some shit that all of a sudden put him in a situation where he could justify using it. Like, why the fuck you even out there? Like, if you can, before you get out there, fix your mind to think that I could possibly get scared out of it. The situation can lead to me being in a situation where it could be contentious and I fear for my life. Then why would you even go out there? Like, you don't even agree with them. Why don't you, have your own protest where you're protesting for your side? That's the logical, insane thing to do. But no, you go out there to start some shit with quote unquote peaceful protester. And that's why you're a terrorist. That's why you and all these Trumpers that's doing the same fucking thing are terrorists. Even the people like, and God bless, the guy that lost his life in Portland. But that group too, the group he was with, The group he was with was down there antagonizing people again, starting shit again. Why are you even there? Why don't you go to your own side of town or you find your own route to where you can protest peacefully in your area? So y'all don't clash. Why not? Because you want to clash. You want this. You want to start some shit. Not only that, a lot of these, majority of these people are coming from out of town. Kyle Rittenhouse didn't live in Kenosha. Why are you there? You know, and here's the crazy thing about the right. They always talk about, you know, it's outsiders that's coming out here and doing it. You know, we need to watch them. And then it's outsiders that's doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, on your side. The guy that got killed in Portland, out-of-stater. Another out-of-stater. Like, why are you there? Why? Stay your fucking ass at home.
Yes.
If you're not there, and here's the thing. You can do your own thing. You know, if you want to protest for what you believe in, set your own shit up. You can do that. Please. Please do. But when you go out there and you antagonize people, insinuate a situation, and then have the gall to say, now all of a sudden I fear for my life. Because that's what he's going to say. And I feel like he's going to get off on that because of that. But he insinuated, he made the situation what it was. First off, he didn't have to go back and forth with the people. 1. 2, he didn't even need to go. Why the fuck, you know, what kind of animal is your fucking mom for actually bringing you to this place? Who in their right mind bring their 17-year-old to these type of protests as on the other side of the protest? So it'd be one thing if you bring your kids because y'all believe in what the protest is. It's another thing to bring your son to a protest as an anti-protest to the protest with his gun. You know, I'm not a parent, but I would think if I had a kid that was still my responsibility, which at 17 he is, I'm not bringing my fucking kid with his fucking gun at 17 years old to be the anti-protest of these protests. I don't think that's smart. But obviously this woman and this husband, you know, this woman and man ain't that smart. Hell. You know what I'm saying? They let their fucking 17-year-old go out in public without them with an AR-15.
Yes.
And the crazy thing about it is when they, you know, it's been said before, you know, that they let them go home. You know, that was kind of fucked up to me. But what really was fucked up to me was like when they initially arrested his ass, they put him in the juvenile detention center. Like, that really pissed me off.
Yes.
Because we all know where he would have been if he was a nigga. He'd been right there with the adults from day one.
Yes.
Like, it's, you know, I think from our perspective, you know, it's right there in front of you. It's just you don't want to believe that there's a difference, you know, because the only time you really think about, you know, the prison system is when it's dealing with black people. You rarely kind of pay attention to when it's, you know, people that look like you, because they don't make a big deal of it. And even when they do address it, they try to humanize him as, oh, he ain't really that bad of a guy. You know, he just had a rough go of it. Whereas when it's, you know, someone that doesn't, you know, look like you, then he must be a bad guy. But I said all this to say that I would just because you don't like that someone. So I put it like this: just because someone took advantage of their given rights of open carrying, under the guise that he's protecting some type of property, which again, we pay people to do that. And also, we pay people to do that who gets actual training, and they still fuck it up.
Yes.
What do you think a 17-year-old is going to do? It doesn't give you the right to terrorize people. And just because you have the right to walk around with a gun doesn't mean you can't be terrorizing people. To which, if you are terrorizing people, you are a terrorist. Again, man, this is something I kind of want to talk towards and on for a while. It's a little old, and I thought I'd just wait to the end of the podcast. I didn't know I would be talking for 2 hours, but it's something that was on my heart because it really was like, you know, I could see how he would see how labeling this young man, Kyle Rittenhouse, a terrorist would be a bit unfair. But at the same time, if you look at it from a practical perspective, one, you know, why are you protesting a peaceful protest with deadly force? Two, why is a kid out there without his parent? Three, why are you protecting some property that we actually pay people to protect? So he did all that under the guise of, well, I have the right to open carry and own these weapons. Although technically he's too young to own that weapon. Just because, and you know, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, I love this saying because it's so apropos to this. And I'll leave it at that because I think I said enough. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And in that instance, just because you can take your gun and go to the peaceful protest and protest against the protests doesn't mean you should. What it probably means is you should stop being lazy and set up your own goddamn protests. In which then you can own, you know, you can own the narrative. You go to a peaceful protest, it is what it is. Now, if you want to argue, well, it hadn't been peaceful. I'm like, well, dude, you can't control everyone in your crew. There's going to be some people that do some things that, you know, you don't necessarily agree with. And you didn't go there to do that. But they did that. That doesn't mean you are responsible for what their behavior. And if the overwhelming majority, 90% of what's going on is peaceful, you know, you can't give us the bad apple too. You know, especially, and it's very hypocritical when the cops do it because, you know, they the main motherfuckers out here talking about you can't blame us for our bad apples.
Yes.
But I've went on way longer than I thought I would today. I'm well into 2 hours in. Again, I want to shout out to my boy Wayne Birch Jr. over at Trap Golf. Appreciate the shirt. Shout out to my boy Regis Devilish down in H-Town for the shorts over the short set off of Modern Renaissance. Good luck to you, Wayne, out there at the U.S. Open. Hopefully you bring home a bag. You know I'm looking for you. And as always, baby, Be sure to find us on all social media platforms on YouTube, Facebook, and SoundCloud under HT Squared, under Hot Takes and Half Truth Podcast, on IG and Twitter under HT Squared Pod. And if you're truly new school, old school, you can email us at htsquaredpod@gmail.com. Again, man, I'll be live streaming tomorrow, LoveCraft Country, episode 6 from my Twitter account, HT Squared Pod. So be sure to interact with us there. Try to go live Monday night for the game. Try to live stream the game. So be on the lookout for that on Facebook from the Joku Media site. And man, I look forward to getting back in the stew with my man Just Kingin again. When you get this chance, go over to his IG and Twitter, congratulate him and the lovely Mrs. Ellis on the anticipated new bundle that's coming. They have beautiful pictures up on the IG. I'm sure you enjoy it. Go ahead and hit the like over there. And make sure you hit the like and the thumbs up on all our social media platforms again. And just like that, we're done. Try to do better next time. From the two of us to all of you, talk to you next time.